Shi Fan is a hotel manager. Lately, she has been having a lot of trouble sleeping. Shi Fan's mom saw her daughter sleeping on the yoga mat and quickly woke her up, asking why she was sleeping there. Shi Fan said that since she couldn't sleep anyway, she thought she'd do some exercise. Shi Fan has tried medicine and other methods, but she still couldn't sleep. Shi Fan's mom said there's a traditional Chinese medicine clinic nearby and told her to go give it a try. Shi Fan went there for a checkup and happened to see Su Yi escorting a patient out. Shi Fan texted her friend, Xiangya, saying that she was sure Xiangya would like this handsome guy. It's just that he was wearing a mask, so she couldn't see his face clearly. Shi Fan went to see Su Yi for an examination. He thought that Shi Fan had something on her mind, and that the most important thing was for her to figure it out herself. He prescribed her some medicine for treatment. Shi Fan deliberately said she couldn't hear him, wanting Su Yi to take off his mask so she could see what he looked like, but he refused to take off the mask. Shi Fan didn't know how to brew the herbal medicine. The clinic could brew it for her. Shi Fan went to the front desk to pay. Su Yi was escorting a patient out, and Shi Fan happened to see his face without the mask. Su Yi told Shi Fan that the pharmacy closed at 5 o'clock, telling her to remember to pick up the medicine. Su Yi occasionally looked out for Shi Fan. The receptionist saw him and asked why he was so free today. The pharmacy closed. Su Yi went outside and saw that Shi Fan's medicine had already been taken. It turned out that Shi Fan's dad had picked up the medicine for her. Shi Fan took a sip and found it very bitter. Shi Fan's mom said that's how traditional Chinese medicine is, telling her to drink it quickly. That evening, Li Ji texted Su Yi, asking him to come and help with an emergency. Su Yi went to take a look and told them to prepare for cupping and acupuncture. Su Yi told the patient's family that Li Ji's handling of the situation was fine. It's just that he saw the patient was elderly and didn't dare to use the phlegm suction machine. Su Yi told Li Ji that he would stay on duty tonight and could monitor further. The next day, Shi Fan still couldn't sleep. She woke up early to buy breakfast, feeling that the medicine wasn't working at all, and told her parents to just throw it away. Su Yi also came to buy breakfast, and, overhearing this, said that traditional Chinese medicine needs time to work. Shi Fan had only taken it once. It couldn't have an effect so quickly, and throwing the medicine away would be wasteful. Shi Fan returned home and recounted the story, feeling that the doctor was still yawning. How could someone who has insomnia cure someone else's insomnia? Shi Fan's dad said that traditional Chinese medicine isn't poison. Just take it and see. Shi Fan was in a meeting when she received a message and rushed to deal with a customer situation. Later, during the break, Shi Fan told Xiangya about Su Yi, feeling that he was very handsome. Shi Fan and Xiangya went together for a follow-up appointment, but the doctor examining them wasn't Su Yi. Shi Fan and Xiangya were both very disappointed. The doctor asked if they thought his medical skills were inferior to Su Yi's. Shi Fan quickly denied it. Shi Fan saw that Xiangya could also register for an examination. Xiangya said she came to see a handsome guy, not for an actual medical examination. When Shi Fan went outside, she happened to meet Su Yi in her neighborhood. Shi Fan asked if Su Yi also lived there. He said that this place was close to the clinic, so he had just moved in. Su Yi also explained that he had made a follow-up appointment with Shi Fan yesterday, but because of an unexpected matter, he couldn't make it. Shi Fan said she'd see him next Saturday, telling Su Yi not to stand her up. Su Yi was about to suggest exchanging phone numbers, but before he could speak, Shi Fan had already left. Su Yi and everyone else ate dinner together. Li Ji hoped that Su Yi wouldn't tell Li Ren about him asking for help. Otherwise, he would be scolded. Li Ji said that he had solved it himself, but Li Ren was still very dissatisfied, thinking how could Su Yi let an intern deal with a patient on their own. Li Ren talked to Su Yi about Shi Fan, feeling that she was quite good, and told Su Yi to try to get to know her. Li Ren felt that he quite liked this girl. She looked very refined, and her personality was also not bad, suggesting that Su Yi was already 31 years old and should consider the matter of marriage. Su Yi said he thought Shi Fan was quite good too, but the reason he was still single at 31 was that he wanted to be cautious, as this was being responsible to himself and also responsible to the other person. After all, he couldn't be like his father, who got married and then neglected his wife. Li Ren felt that Su Yi's mother was indeed too careless, but Su Yi was too cautious. If he wanted to be an old bachelor, then he wouldn't interfere. Su Yi graded the essays for Li Ji and the others. Seeing Li Ji's paper, he remembered that it was because of him that he couldn't go to the appointment and crossed out his name. During mealtime in the cafeteria, Li Ji came to find Su Yi, asking him why he crossed out his name. and if he had a prejudice against him. Soo-yi didn't say the reason, only telling him to go back and think about it carefully. After work, Shi-fan saw a message from her boyfriend, Yin-hung, but when Yin-hung called, she didn't answer. Yin-hung then messaged her again, saying that when he wanted to find Shi-fan, she was nowhere to be found. After work, Yin-hung waited for Shi-fan with flowers. She excitedly asked him why he came. Yin-hung scolded Shi-fan for not answering the phone. How was he supposed to know if she still remembered they had dinner tonight? Shi-fan said she had set a reminder. During the meal, Yin-hung asked Shi-fan if she wanted to study abroad. Shi-fan admitted that she had this plan and had been thinking about it for a long time. Yin-hung disagreed, not wanting Shi-fan to study abroad. One reason was that he had already returned to the country, and Shi-fan wanted to go abroad, meaning they'd be in a long-distance relationship again. The second reason was that he hoped Shi-fan could quit her job and not work at the hotel anymore. After all, it was just the service industry, and if his clients later went to Shi-fan's hotel, would Shi-fan have to bow and scrape to serve them? Hearing Yin-hung belittle her work like that, Shi-fan felt very hurt. She felt that since college, she had wanted to study abroad, but it was Yin-hung who thought Switzerland was too far away and it wouldn't be convenient to see her, so she didn't go. Moreover, she had been working at the hotel for 7 years, and she didn't want to change jobs. Shi-fan returned home, very upset, and asked her parents what if she broke up with Yin-hung? Shi-fan's parents were very surprised, asking if Yin-hung had done something wrong while studying abroad. Shi-fan quickly said he hadn't. They both thought the two were fine, so why would they want to break up? They even wanted to call Yin-hung to ask him clearly. Shi-fan could only say she was joking and didn't intend to break up. Shi-fan went downstairs and couldn't help but cry. Soo-yi happened to pass by and saw her, so he sat down beside her to comfort her. Soo-yi asked if Shi-fan's family had any apples. He thought the scent of apples could help her sleep well, telling her to try it. The next day, Shi-fan went to Soo-yi's place for a follow-up appointment. Soo-yi prescribed her some medicine, then gave her acupuncture and told her to rest a bit. Shi-fan quickly fell asleep, not expecting to sleep for so long when she woke up. Soo-yi gave Shi-fan a sachet, saying it was even more effective than apples. Shi-fan received a message from Yin-hung. Yin-hung said he had thought about it for a long time, and it was better for them to break up. Shi-fan quickly called Yin-hung, but he didn't answer. Shi-fan saw Yin-hung's post on her friend's circle, very upset, thinking why didn't Yin-hung just block her outright. The summit began, and the general manager requested everyone to do a good job of the reception work. Shi-fan was therefore very busy. Soo-yi watched the news on TV reporting on this event. Just as Shi-fan walked behind him, Soo-yi saw that she was very tired and was massaging her neck. Seong-ya and the others already knew about Shi-fan's breakup and asked if she wanted to take a few days off, but she said it wasn't necessary. Seong-ya reminded Shi-fan that she had a follow-up appointment today. She just remembered, but thinking that the general manager had instructed them not to leave their posts without authorization, she decided to handle her work first. Mrs. Fong and Mr. Yin arrived together to check in. Mrs. Fong inquired about Mr. Yin's 2 sons. He said his eldest son was busy with work at the company, and his youngest son, Yin-hung's robotics company, was not yet qualified to participate in this conference. Mrs. Fong mentioned that she had a niece and could introduce her to Yin-hung. Mr. Yin happily agreed. Shi-fan heard this and felt very sad. So he noticed that Shi-fan hadn't come for a follow-up appointment and asked the receptionist. He learned that she didn't have an appointment today. So he got Shi-fan's phone number from the receptionist and called her. Shi-fan explained that she was too busy and couldn't come for the appointment. So he asked if she could come next week. Shi-fan immediately agreed. Soo-yi then also suggested prescribing more medicine for her to take in the meantime. Soo-yi said that whenever Shi-fan felt down, she could go to places with lots of trees. Those places are rich in oxygen and would help improve her mood. Soo-yi added Shi-fan as a friend on WeChat and sent her the prescription, telling her that the nearby pharmacy would prepare it, and she could pick it up whenever she was free. Li-ren mentioned Shi-fan. Soo-yi immediately said that she was busy today and would come for a follow-up appointment next week. Li-ren knew that Soo-yi had gotten Shi-fan's phone number, thinking that he was starting to fall in love, and appeared very happy. Soo-yi said Li-ren was overthinking it. Shi-fan already had a boyfriend. Li-ren, hearing this, felt very disappointed. Mr. Yin was preparing to leave and asked Shi-fan to escort him to the parking lot. Shi-fan had to take him. At this time, she asked Mr. Yin when Yin-hung would be back, only to learn that he was at home. Shi-fan was very heartbroken not expecting that Yin Hung wasn't T abroad, but didn't T want to see her. What was their 7-year relationship after all? What had she done wrong? Shi Fan couldn't T sleep and drank all the remaining medicine. Xiang called to check on her. Shi Fan said she was fine, and she hadn't T told her parents yet. After all, she was an adult now and would tell them after everything was settled. Shi Fan went to the clinic, but Su Yi wasn't T there. The receptionist said Su Yi only saw patients on weekends. On weekdays, he worked at the traditional Chinese medicine hospital. Shi Fan messaged Su Yi, asking if she could go to the traditional Chinese medicine hospital to find him. Su Yi received the message and agreed. Su Yi told his junior colleague to bring the essays to the lounge later. He happened to be free and could help them review. Su Yi arranged to meet Shi Fan in the garden. Shi Fan said Su Yi didn't need to prioritize her. She could register normally at the clinic. Su Yi said he was an oncologist. The people who came to see him were all cancer patients. Shi Fan couldn't register to see him. Su Yi was very surprised to learn that Shi Fan had drunk all the medicine, saying that medicine also has toxins and shouldn't be taken like that. Su Yi took her pulse, wrote a prescription for Shi Fan, and told her to take it to the pharmacy to have it brewed. If she had any problems, she should call him. Shi Fan wanted to drink milk tea. Su Yi advised her to at least drink it at room temperature. Shi Fan asked if she could have it with a little ice. Su Yi, seeing that she wasn't an obedient patient, said then add more ice and then eat 2 tubs of ice cream. Shi Fan thought, why is this doctor being so sulky with the patient? Shi Fan posted a picture of the herbs she saw today on her friend's circle, took a sip of the medicine, and found it very bitter, not knowing what was in it. Shi Fan looked at the prescription Su Yi wrote, seeing that his handwriting was also beautiful, and went online to look up what these herbs were. Su Yi messaged her, asking why she still wasn't asleep. He then told her not to look at her phone before sleeping, to keep her mind calm, and informed her that he had seen her post on her friend's circle. Shi Fan woke up quite late and wanted her parents to go for a walk with her. Her dad was busy grading papers, and her mom was watching a dating show, so Shi Fan had to go alone. Shi Fan drank her medicine downstairs and happened to meet Su Yi skateboarding. Shi Fan asked why he was skateboarding so late. Su Yi said that after working all day, his mind was tense, and he was going out to relax a bit. Su Yi was going to buy something, and Shi Fan also wanted to buy some snacks. The two of them went to the convenience store together. Shi Fan bought some snacks and saw Su Yi buy a bottle of water, the kind that Yin Hung used to like to drink. She suddenly felt sad. A colleague wanted to hitch a ride with Su Yi to the number 1 People's hospital, but he refused. The colleague was very surprised, saying that Su Yi's father was holding an academic seminar there. Su Yi explained that he was a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, so he wouldn't be attending. Su Yi's father messaged him, inviting him to dinner tonight, but he declined. Su Yi watched the news about his father's seminar, thinking that he only contacted him after he arrived. On the way back, it unfortunately started to rain. Su Yi didn't bring an umbrella and used his bag to cover himself. Shi Fan came over and held her umbrella over him, asking why he didn't bring an umbrella. Su Yi held the umbrella and escorted Shi Fan home first. Shi Fan bought a large bouquet of blue tulips, saying that this type of flower was very difficult to buy, and she had a hard time getting them, but she generously gave some to Su Yi. Su Yi went to the clinic. Today he wasn't wearing a mask, and a patient took a photo of him and posted it in the neighborhood chat group. Shi Fan's mom also saw it and praised him for being very handsome. Shi Fan's dad recognized that it was the clinic near their neighborhood. Shi Fan's mom immediately asked her if she knew him. Shi Fan quickly said she didn't. The clinic was very crowded today, ostensibly there to see the doctor, but in reality, they were all there to see Su Yi's face. Shi Fan arrived and also didn't expect there to be so many people. The nurse said that they probably couldn't register any more patients today. Su Yi texted her, telling her to come straight in. The nurse had a hard time persuading these people to leave. Su Yi texted Shi Fan to come to the back door. Shi Fan told Su Yi about the neighborhood chat group, saying that her mom asked if she knew him. Shi Fan said she didn't otherwise, her mom would definitely ask for his WeChat, and then his WeChat would be taken by all the aunts in the neighborhood, one by one. Su Yi gave Shi Fan acupuncture and inquired about her work. Shi Fan said that the front desk manager had to do a lot of things, and the work was quite busy. After the acupuncture, Shi Fan fell asleep. Su Yi saw this and didn't wake her. Shi Fan woke up and saw the prescription Su Yi wrote, seeing that there was a lot of Coptis chinensis, thinking to herself that it was very bitter. Su Yi said that she could endure hardships at work, but couldn't endure the bitterness of medicine. Su Yi gave Shi Fan a sachet. Fan gave Su Yi a yellow circular keychain in return. Su Yi thought it looked like a wedding ring and told her she could pretend to be married. An older woman came to find Su Yi. He intentionally said it was a wedding ring. The older woman was very annoyed, thinking why would he be going on blind dates if he was already married? Fan went to eat with her parents. Su Yi brought the medicine. Fan quickly signaled for him to leave first. Fan made an excuse to go outside and get the medicine from Su Yi. When Fan returned, her mom stared at her, feeling that she seemed strange lately. Fan said she was fine. Her dad also thought there was no problem. Now that her health was better, a rosy complexion was also normal. Fan's mom thought that she had definitely made up with Yin Heng. Fan and Xiangya went out to eat. Fan always carried mints, saying that Su Yi said she could eat them. Fan showed Xiangya a video, saying that Su Yi was quite handsome, asking Xiangya if she regretted not meeting him. Xiangya said he wasn't her type and thought Fan and Su Yi were quite compatible. Fan said they were just friends, and besides, she was preparing her study abroad application, and she couldn't have a long-distance relationship later. Xiangya told Yishun that Fan seemed to like Su Yi too, but because she was going to study abroad, she didn't want to lead him on. Yishun asked Xiangya if it was really difficult to get together if they were just friends. Xiangya said of course, it's very difficult to change the relationship. Fan returned home. Her mom gave her a picture, asking her what was going on. In the picture, Fan and Su Yi look very close. Her mom asked if she was two-timing. Fan had to tell her that she and Yin Heng had broken up. Her mom asked why she didn't say so earlier. Fan explained that she wanted to sort everything out first before telling them. Fan said there was one more thing she wanted to tell her parents. She wanted to study abroad. Her parents were very surprised, thinking that this was too big of a deal. After all, Fan was already 27 years old. Studying abroad would mean quitting her job, and after returning, she would have to find a job again, and by then she would be too old, and no company would hire her. Fan was very sad and went outside, happening to meet Su Yi. Su Yi took her to eat spicy hot pot, saying that these foods would help improve her mood. Fan didn't expect Su Yi to skateboard and eat spicy hot pot. She thought that traditional Chinese medicine doctors should eat light foods, cultivate themselves, and nourish their nature, thinking that he had misunderstood traditional Chinese medicine. Fan talked about wanting to study abroad, but after hearing her parents' words, she also hesitated a bit. Su Yi said that when he chose this major, he also had conflict with his family. His grandfather and mother both studied traditional Chinese medicine. His father studied Western medicine. His father wanted him to study Western medicine, but because of his mother, he still resolutely chose traditional Chinese medicine. Su Yi's mother died of cancer. The chemotherapy process was very painful, but traditional Chinese medicine could alleviate her suffering. Su Yi advised her to do whatever she wanted to do to give it a try. Fan returned home and told her parents that she still wanted to try. The school she applied to was one of the top 3 in the country. Studying abroad wasn't easy. If she didn't get in, she would give up. Fan's parents, hearing this, agreed. Fan texted Su Yi this good news. He was skateboarding outside at the time, so he didn't reply. Fan went out to find him. Su Yi suggested taking her to a place. Su Yi took Fan to the lakeside, saying that it was very quiet now, but after sunrise, it would become lively. Fan immediately suggested watching the sunrise together. The next day, Fan went to the hotel to work. Mr. Ding said that his ring was missing. He recounted that he only went to the restroom to wash his face, went outside to answer the phone, took a walk in the garden, and when he returned, the ring had disappeared. Mr. Ding was very anxious because it was a ring his wife gave him, very important to him. Fan braved the heavy rain and went out to the garden to search, finally finding the ring. Mr. Ding was very happy, saying that his attitude had been bad, and this time he was very grateful to Fan. Fan got wet in the rain and went to shower and change clothes. Today was her period, so she had extremely bad cramps. Fan found Xiangya to get painkillers, but even though she took them, they weren't very effective. Su Yi returned and happened to meet Fan. Seeing that she was very uncomfortable, he hurriedly asked her what was wrong. Fan said she had period cramps. He immediately took her to the clinic, wanted to do moxibustion for her to make her feel better. Fan agreed, but didn't dare lie down because she was afraid of leaking. Su Yi told her to lie down. They had already put down disposable sheets. Fan said that she hadn't had period cramps before. Su Yi discovered that she had gotten caught in the rain today. Shi Fan was very sad and couldn't hold back her tears, saying she would borrow his place to cry for a bit, and then she fell asleep. Suyi didn't dare to wake her and let her rest for a while. Suyi gave Shi Fan his shirt, saying that it was cold outside, and it could keep her warm and provide some coverage. Shi Fan wanted to wait for Suyi to go home together, but he said he still had to clean up, telling her to go home first. Shi Fan looked at Suyi's friend's circle and accidentally liked a post, then quickly unliked it to hide it, but then she liked several other posts. Suyi messaged her, asking why she still wasn't asleep, then mentioned the post about needing to sleep before 11 p.m. and advised her to go to bed early. The next day, Shi Fan asked Xiangya and learned that if you like and then unlike, the other person could still know, which made her embarrassed. Yishun saw it and said that Suyi definitely had feelings for Shi Fan, otherwise, why would he care when she slept? Shi Fan thought that she went to Suyi for a medical examination to treat insomnia. Him asking when she slept was normal. Xiangya looked at Suyi's post on his friend's circle, saying that he was someone who rarely posted. Posting a picture of a licorice root, wasn't he that to get Shi Fan to like it and conveniently start conversation? Suyi wrote some medicinal food recipes and sent them to Shi Fan, telling her she could make them and eat them. Shi Fan thanked him and asked if her parents could eat them too. Suyi said that medicinal food was quite mild, anyone could eat it. At this time, Suyi had a critically ill patient. He told the family that they should now transfer the patient to the intensive care unit, and they might have to perform invasive resuscitation. The family said their mother was already in a lot of pain. If they performed invasive resuscitation, it would be even more painful. They just wanted her to pass away peacefully, hoping Suyi could help prolong her time a little so that the family could see her one last time. Suyi had no choice but to agree. Suyi remembered when his mother died. The doctor also said the cancer had metastasized and there was no need for resuscitation, so his father gave up. Shi Fan finished work and returned home, seeing Suyi eating and asked him if something had happened. Suyi said he was fine. Shi Fan saw that he was unhappy but didn't know how to comfort him. Suyi suggested that if she was free, she could take a walk with him. When they were walking, a car suddenly came towards them. Shi Fan quickly pulled him back. Suyi suddenly hugged her, which made Shi Fan very surprised. Back home, Shi Fan kept thinking about this, not knowing what Suyi meant. Shi Fan was working when her mom called, reminding her to cancel her work today and come home early. In the evening, Shi Fan curiously returned home, not expecting her parents to have arranged a blind date for her. Her mom introduced this person as a traditional Chinese medicine doctor with a very good background and conditions. Although Shi Fan repeatedly refused, under the urging of her parents, she had to reluctantly agree. The next day, Shi Fan went to find Suyi for a medical examination and complained to him about her parents urging her to get married. But Suyi mistakenly thought that Shi Fan had discussed marriage with her boyfriend, so he felt very disappointed. Suyi helped his junior colleague revise her essay. Ku Xin wanted to invite Suyi to dinner to thank him, but he politely declined. At this time, Li Ji came to find Suyi, saying he had a personal matter to ask for Suyi's help. Li Ji wanted Suyi to help him go on a blind date. Suyi disagreed, thinking that the other person had arranged a blind date with Li Ji. If he went, it would be like deceiving them. If Li Ji didn't want to go, he shouldn't have agreed in the first place. Left with no other choice, Li Ji had to go on the blind date himself. Unexpectedly, the person he was dating was Shi Fan, but they both made it clear that they had no intention of dating or getting married. After clarifying everything, they both began to talk openly with each other. At this time, Shi Fan learned that Li Ji studied traditional Chinese medicine and revealed that she was also being treated by a doctor there. Li Ji also talked about his senior colleague, Suyi. After Suyi finished work, he was curious about Li Ji's date. He was very surprised to learn that the dating partner was Shi Fan. It was then that he realized she had broken up with her boyfriend. Thinking back to the last time she complained about her parents urging her to get married, Suyi felt very happy. Now he could openly pursue her. At this time, Shi Fan was supervising the staff arranging the hotel rooms, and she saw that there were some flowers left over, so she took them. Yishin suddenly had an idea and gave Xiangya a bouquet. Although she didn't like flowers, she felt very happy. That evening, Shi Fan returned home and happened to see Suyi skateboarding. Seeing him so happy, she didn't know what to congratulate him on, so she gave him a bouquet of flowers. Suyi was even happier, making her curious about what was going on. Shi Fan received a group of tourists at the hotel, mostly middle-aged people between 50 and 60 years old. Many had underlying health conditions, so they needed to contact a doctor to provide some medical services. Shifan thought they could combine it with traditional Chinese medicine wellness. For cuisine, they could make some medicinal dishes, which could also create a unique feature. Her superiors thought it was a good idea and told them to make a plan. Shifan also believed that medicinal cuisine couldn't be made haphazardly. Moreover, these guests had underlying health conditions and might be taking medication. They also needed to ask a doctor if these dishes would conflict with the medications they were taking. The manager thought it was reasonable, saying that Shifan had recently been seeing a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and it would be perfect to ask if her doctor would be willing to be a consultant. Shifan immediately agreed. The next day, Shifan went to find Suyi. He used the excuse that he recently wanted to make medicinal food and he had already bought the ingredients, inviting Shifan to his house for dinner. Shifan went to Suyi's house for dinner and mentioned wanting to invite him to be a consultant. Suyi said that from Monday to Friday, he worked at the traditional Chinese medicine hospital, and on Saturdays, he had to go to the clinic. He was only free on Sundays. Shifan said that was no problem. They could arrange it according to Suyi's schedule. Suyi thought that he also worked at the traditional Chinese medicine hospital. Accepting outside consulting work needed to be done cautiously. He told them to send him a copy of the plan first after they finished it. If there were no problems, they could sign a contract. After dinner, Suyi took Shifan home and invited her to come to his house for dinner again next time. Back home, Shifan couldn't wait and started working on the plan. Because she needed Suyi's information, she logged onto the website to search, discovering that Suyi was not only a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, but also had an extremely impressive resume. Just as Shifan was regretting having changed the prescription in front of Suyi, he called, urging her to go to bed early. There was a young patient at Suyi's hospital who had previously undergone chemotherapy at another hospital. Hearing that this hospital was very effective, they came here. Suyi said that currently, the main treatment method for this disease was still chemotherapy, but using traditional Chinese medicine could alleviate some of the pain after chemotherapy. The childless mother had to go to work, and the boy didn't want his mother to have to travel far to bring him food, so he followed Suyi home to eat. The boy recounted that his father had died when he was in kindergarten. The boy thought Suyi looked very much like his father, so he wanted to follow him. Suyi, hearing this, also felt very uncomfortable. Ku Xin came to find the boy, telling him not to follow Suyi and not to say things like Suyi resembled his father. It was very easy to cause misunderstandings. The boy asked Ku Xin if she liked Suyi. She quickly denied it, saying that he was just her teacher. On this side, the superiors were very satisfied with everyone's plan and urged Shifan to quickly sign a contract with Suyi. Shifan then proactively contacted Suyi, telling him to remember to check the contract and send both the front and back of his ID card to her. In addition, Shifan also suggested visiting the hospital. Suyi, hearing this, was very happy. The two of them arranged to meet at the herb garden at noon. She gave him the contract to sign, then unconsciously gazed at him before shyly smiling. Right then, Suyi suddenly received a call from the emergency room and hastily returned to the ward, forgetting to take the consultant contract. Seeing this, Shifan quickly followed. She was about to give him the contract when Zhao Zhe suddenly ran out and called Suyi dad, which startled her. She immediately misunderstood that he had a child. To avoid embarrassment, she just texted Suyi to pick up the contract at the front desk. After he came to get the contract, the nurse asked him if there was anything between him and Shifan. He immediately confirmed that it was work-related. Shifan returned to the hotel and asked Ishan if there were any welcome gifts in the budget. She wanted to give Suyi a gift. Ishan thought it was fine and asked Shifan what she wanted to give. Shifan said to give a child's toy. Ishan was also surprised, wondering if Suyi still played with children's toys. Shifan had to reveal that she was giving it to Suyi's son. Shifan and Xiangya went to choose a gift together. Shifan told Xiangya that Suyi had a son, which greatly surprised Xiangya. Just then, Suyi texted Shifan, inviting her to dinner at his house, but Shifan declined. That evening, Xiangya took Shifan to a bar to drink. They both complained about their troubles. Shifan complained about Suyi hiding his marital status, and Xiangya complained about Ishan going back to his hometown. When they were drunk, Ishan personally came to pick them up, but Xiangya pointed at him and scolded him as trash. At this time, Shifan arrived home and met Suyi. He didn't expect her to drink so much. Suyi wanted to take Shifan home, but she was drunk and completely didn't recognize him, scolding him as trash. Then she met her parents and told them she had just met a bad guy. They scolded Su Yi mercilessly. He felt helpless and had to leave. The next day, Shi Fan woke up, remembered what happened last night, and felt very ashamed. She quickly threw away all the alcohol in the refrigerator. Shi Fan's dad saw this, regretting that such good beer was being thrown away, and secretly drank a can. On this side, Yishan didn't understand why Xiangya's attitude towards him had changed during this period. It was until she said she wanted to go back to her hometown that he had to acknowledge it. Xiangya then acted angry, not want to talk to him anymore, and left. Yishan remembered what happened last night, taking her home, and felt uneasy. During lunch break, Su Yi still hadn't received any messages, so he sent another message to Shi Fan, but the reply he received was very polite and distant. Not only that, when Su Yi brought Li Ji and Ku Xi into the hotel, Shi Fan seemed to be intentionally avoiding him, which made him very confused. Shi Fan then gave gifts to the three of them and gave Su Yi a toy. Su Yi was a little confused. Yishan quickly explained that this gift was for his son. Li Ji, hearing this, was surprised and explained that it was their young patient who liked to call Su Yi dad and confirmed that he was still single. Shi Fan, realizing her misunderstanding, felt extremely embarrassed. But it was because of this incident that they completely understood each other as thoughts and feelings. Su Yi also understood why Shi Fan called him trash. The group then drove to the herb garden. Su Yi led them on a tour of the various Chinese medicinal plants in the garden. The misunderstandings being resolved made Shi Fan very happy. Xiangya was also happy for Shi Fan. Because she wanted to bring her and Su Yi closer together, she found every opportunity for the two of them to be alone. Su Yi led Shi Fan and everyone on a tour of the herb garden. Shi Fan saw a Schisandra chinensis plant and asked if she could pick some. Su Yi agreed. Shi Fan picked some for Xiangya and Yishan to eat, saying that they were sweet and sour and very delicious. Li Ji tried to stop them, but Su Yi said it was okay. Xiangya and Yishan ate them and then realized they had been tricked by Shi Fan and were both very upset. When Shi Fan and everyone went inside, Su Yi showed them the various herbs he had prepared, saying that they could take these back to try making tea, and moreover, there were many recipes for medicinal food. Shi Fan went to look at the herbs in another area, wanted to find ingredients for a sachet, thinking that this could save time on Dr. S visits. Su Yi briefly introduced some herbs to Shi Fan, then took her outside to see the herbs. Shi Fan smelled this agarwood fragrance. It was very fragrant, and the scent felt a bit like Su Yi's. He said this was the most premium medicinal ingredient, and then thanked Shi Fan for complimenting him. That evening, Shi Fan messaged Su Yi to meet up. He gave her a sachet. Shi Fan smelled the agarwood scent. Su Yi complimented her, saying her sense of smell was very sharp. Shi Fan returned home. Her mom asked what she was holding. Shi Fan said it was a sachet given by the clinic. Shi Fan's mom found the scent of this sachet quite pleasant and told Shi Fan's dad to also get one. On this side, Su Yi's grandfather called him, asking how things were going with him and Shi Fan. Li Ji had already told him everything. He and Shi Fan were constantly making eyes at each other. Su Yi denied making eyes at Shi Fan, but in the end, he declared that he still wanted to pursue Shi Fan. Su Yi's grandfather, hearing this, was very happy. The tour group arrived at the hotel. Xiangya introduced them to the prepared medicinal dishes. Everyone was very satisfied. An elderly lady called Shi Fan over, saying that she didn't like the sachet in her room and wanted to exchange it for another one. Shi Fan said that when the elderly lady checked in, she didn't have any specific requests, so they had put one with a fresh scent, asking if the elderly lady had any requirements regarding its effects. The elderly lady said the effects weren't important, as long as the scent was pleasant. Shi Fan immediately had someone exchange it for another one for the elderly lady. Zhao Zhe had undergone a course of chemotherapy. Su Yi praised the boy for being very brave and gave him Shi Fan's gift. Zhao Zhe opened the gift. Zhao Ze's mother saw that it was a very expensive transforming robot model and felt very guilty, wanting to thank her personally. Su Yi said he would pass on the message to her. She had heard that Zhao Ze was very strong and wanted to give him a gift to encourage him. Shi Fan chatted with Yishan. He planned that next year he might quit his job. His parents had a small company that wanted to retire and wanted him to take over. Yishan asked Shi Fan, after all this time, they hadn't gotten together. Did he and Xiangya still have a chance? Shi Fan didn't know what to say. At the same time, Su Yi told Shi Fan that he had given the toy to Zhao Ze and invited her to his house for dinner. using the excuse that Zhao Zhe wanted to thank her. When Li Ji saw Shifan happily looking at her phone, he couldn't help but sigh. The last time he saw him like this was in college. After work, Shifan proactively went to Su Yi's house and shared with him that the elderly people nowadays had a lot of energy. She was so young and yet couldn't keep up. While talking, Shifan suddenly saw Su Yi's keychain. She became curious. Su Yi remembered that he had told Shifan that the ring was lost, so he felt very embarrassed. But it turned out that Shifan was talking about Su Yi's keychain, which had something that looked like a fossil on it. Su Yi said it was a dragon bone and then told her to come eat. He had finished cooking. After eating, Shifan had to leave immediately because her parents called. Su Yi used the excuse of taking out the trash to walk her home. After returning home, Shifan kept thinking about the ring, wondering if it was the one she had given to Su Yi, thinking that maybe it was just similar. The next day, when Shifan went to work, someone told her that a guest was not feeling well, inviting her to take a look. Shifan went to check and found that it was the elderly lady from the day before who wanted to change the sachet. The hotel doctor had also examined her. The elderly lady said it was just her old illness flaring up because her painkillers had run out, asking the doctor to prescribe her some painkillers. The doctor told Shifan that the elderly lady's condition was best checked at a hospital, but the elderly lady refused. Shifan went over to advise her to still go to the hospital for a checkup, but the elderly lady insisted that it was just her old illness and that taking painkillers would be enough. Shifan noticed that she usually didn't go out with the group. The elderly lady explained that she didn't have much energy and couldn't go out with them. Moreover, she was close to them. She had just seen this tour group in town and joined them. Shifan asked the elderly lady where her family was. She recounted that her husband had passed away, her children were all abroad, and they usually had little contact. She thought that she was old and had to go out and enjoy herself. Therefore, she had sold her house to have money to travel, occasionally taking pictures to send to her children. Shifan was very moved. After returning, she immediately inquired about her parents' health. Both of them were very surprised that she asked like that. Shifan explained that she felt she hadn't been attentive enough to them. Shifan's mom said that her conscience had awakened and that their health was still good, advising her not to worry. The next morning, Shifan woke up and discovered that she had a stiff neck, so she had to go to Su Yi's place for an examination. He decided to massage her. Shifan felt that Su Yi was standing too close, so she felt a bit embarrassed. After the massage, she quickly ran away. Xiangya packed some medicinal food for Shifan. The two of them talked about Yishun wanting to go back to his hometown. Shifan thought that maybe Yishun hadn't decided yet. Xiangya said that after all these years, they kept missing each other. Maybe it was because they didn't like each other that much. Shifan went to find Su Yi. She had some study abroad documents to write and wanted to ask him a bit about the content of this project. Su Yi helped Shifan write. She kept staring at him. Su Yi dozed off on the sofa. Shifan came over to help him take off his glasses. Looking at his handsome face, she unconsciously intended to kiss him, but just then there was a doorbell ring. Shifan had to go open the door. Li Ji came to find Su Yi to announce that tomorrow teacher Yu would be checking their essays. He came to ask Su Yi for help. Shifan took the opportunity to leave first. Su Yi was also very upset and didn't let Li Ji into the house. Shifan returned home, thinking about what had just happened, and felt very embarrassed. She went to the snack stalls at the entrance of the apartment complex. Su Yi also came to have a late-night snack with her. Shifan said that the documents were no longer a problem, they just needed a little revision. Then he asked when she would be going abroad and learned that it was in February. After returning home, Shifan checked the time difference, thinking that if she went abroad, she wouldn't be able to see Su Yi for a long time. She didn't know if she should be so selfish. The next day, teacher Yu helped Li Ji and everyone review their essays. Li Ji asked Su Yi if he was also leaving early today. If he had a date, he should go quickly. Teacher Yu asked Li Ji what was going on. He revealed that yesterday he had accidentally disturbed Shifan and Su Yi's date. Teacher Yu asked Su Yi what was going on. He explained that he was discussing some work with Shifan. Teacher Yu teased him a few sentences. Su Yi had to admit that he was pursuing Shifan. Teacher Yu, hearing this, was very happy. The next day, Su Yi went to the hospital. His colleague saw him and encouraged him to keep going. A colleague asked Su Yi how things were going and if he needed help planning. Su Yi wondered if the whole hospital already knew. The colleague said that more than half the hospital already knew. Shifan's parents coordinated well, wanting to introduce someone to Shifan. Shifan said there was no need for a blind date, People who went on blind dates were definitely looking to get married, but she was going abroad to study soon. So wouldn't they be leading someone on? Shifan's mom still persuaded her to go on the date, even scheduling the appointment, sending the time and place to Shifan, telling her she had to go on Friday evening. Shifan had no other choice but to cope one more time. Unexpectedly, she waited there for a long time, but the other person didn't show up. Shifan's mom messaged her, informing her that the other person had stood her up, telling her to find somewhere nice to eat. She had scolded the matchmaker for being so irresponsible. Shifan went outside and happened to meet Li Ji. He explained that his classmates were gathering, and Su Yi saw her, so he told him to invite Shifan to come along. Shifan thought that they were all classmates. It might not be appropriate for her to go along. Li Ji said it was fine, everyone was a classmate, she should come along for fun. Shifan agreed to go with Li Ji. At this time, Su Yi messaged Li Ji, telling him to just say that Shifan was his friend later, so that people wouldn't tease them. Shifan chatted with everyone. Someone suggested playing Truth or Dare, and Shifan drank quite a bit of alcohol. Seeing that Shifan was drunk, Su Yi took her home, telling Li Ji to entertain everyone. Just now, during Truth or Dare, Su Yi said he liked a girl he met in April. Shifan asked if the person Su Yi was talking about was her, and then kissed him. Shifan's parents saw their daughter so drunk, and they didn't know how much she had drunk. Su Yi asked Shifan's parents how they found the medicinal food, and then recounted that Shifan had asked him to write a prescription. She wanted to eat it with them. Shifan's parents only then realized that Su Yi was Dr. He, so he left first. Shifan's mom thought that she didn't need to arrange any more blind dates for Shifan. She thought Su Yi was quite good. Su Yi stood outside and heard this, feeling very happy. The next morning, Shifan woke up and remembered what happened last night, feeling very embarrassed. Su Yi brought medicine for Shifan. She immediately asked if the person Su Yi mentioned yesterday was her. Su Yi immediately admitted it. It was because he previously felt the time wasn't right, so he didn't say anything, but he really did like Shifan. When faced with Shifan's questions, Su Yi didn't hesitate to confess to her. However, Shifan suddenly refused. She said she was going abroad to study soon and didn't want a long-distance relationship. Su Yi felt very confused. Clearly, last night Shifan had actively kissed him, so why was she so resolutely refusing today? He felt uncomfortable, gave her the medicine, and then left. When Shifan brought the medicine home, her parents inquired about the progress of her and Su Yi's relationship. But when they learned that their daughter had refused, they were extremely shocked and felt sorry for her. After Xiangya heard Shifan recount that she had rejected Su Yi's confession, she also felt sorry for their fate, so she told Li Ji about it. Ku Xian bought milk tea, proactively chatted with Su Yi, and indirectly consoled him to try a different method of emotional release. In the afternoon, the hospital leadership told Su Yi that after many discussions, they might have to stop his research on breast cancer. Although Su Yi had tried, this method really wasn't effective. So he felt very upset, but could only follow the department head's words. That evening, Shifan went for a walk and met Su Yi, who had just finished overtime. She made an excuse to go home, not wanting to talk further. Su Yi proactively messaged Shifan, reminding her that if she had ginger at home, she should slice the ginger and soak it in water. But Shifan didn't reply, and instead fell into a nightmare where Su Yi was looking at her with hatred. Su Yi was also sad and confided in his grandfather, even wondering if he was delusional. His grandfather advised him not to be too hard on himself and to give up the relationship if it wasn't working out. The next day, Shifan suddenly received an acceptance notice, and she realized that she was about to have to say goodbye to Su Yi. Shifan happened to meet the elderly lady from before again. The two of them chatted for a few sentences. Shifan confided that she had made a decision. She should have been very happy, but she was always unhappy. The elderly lady thought that Shifan was worried because she regretted her current decision. Life is like clouds in the sky. Coming and going is all fate. As long as there is fate, even if it turns into rain, it will fall into the same lake. As the Lunar New Year approached, Hisheng called Su Yi, asking when he would be coming home this year, and revealed that Aunt Wang would be coming to their house to celebrate the New Year. On the other side, Xiangya and Shifan went to a bar, advising her not to fall into the mindset of not dating because of studying abroad. Meeting someone who genuinely cares for you isn't easy. If you keep pushing back and forth, you'll definitely miss out and regret it. Even if they were just ordinary friends, they shouldn't hide everything from each other. After that, Xiangya messaged Li Ji, intending to take Shi-fan out to play, but in reality, she wanted her to meet Su-yi. Arriving at Su-yi's house, Shi-fan felt very uncomfortable. Su-yi went into the kitchen to cook soup himself. At this time, Ko-exian lost all patience. While Shi-fan was wiping up the spilled soup, she intentionally revealed that Su-yi had a girlfriend who abandoned him to go abroad. Ko-exian hoped that if Shi-fan didn't tea like Su-yi, she could clearly state her attitude, instead of constantly refusing and then interacting to avoid causing him harm. After hearing Ko-exian say this, Shi-fan had no other choice but to leave Su-yi's house first. Su-yi immediately sent his friends away, leaving Ko-exian alone. He declared that she would always be his student and nothing more. He also told Ko-exian that next semester, she would no longer be his student. Su-yi remembered that Xiangya had said that Shi-fan had very little relationship experience, so she was very afraid of being hurt again. When she rejected his feelings, she was very heartbroken. Finally, Su-yi understood the pain in Shi-fan's heart. On this side, Shi-fan remembered what Ko-exian had said, along with Yan-heng's words, and she couldn't help but cry sadly. On Lunar New Year's Eve, Su-yi flew back to his hometown and brought gifts for his relatives and friends. But Hisheng only talked to Su-yi for a few sentences, then called a woman over. The woman was Nurse Wang from Hisheng's hospital. She was divorced and had a son named Wang Chong. Su-yi found out that the mother and son were in his room, said nothing, and temporarily rested in the living room on the first floor. The next morning, Su-yi glanced at the news Shi-fan's friend's circle posted and smiled. Today was also his birthday. Many birthday wishes messages came from apps. On this side, everyone in the hotel was busy making dumplings, and the colleagues chatted, laughed, and took pictures. Yishun and Xiangya also packed their luggage early, preparing to go home. After saying goodbye to Shi-fan, Yishun proactively took Xiangya to the train station. Because the relationship between Su-yi and Hisheng wasn't good, he wasn't very familiar with his father's relatives. He could only sit alone at the dining table with an awkward expression. Seeing Hisheng attentively helping Nurse Wang serve food and tea, he suddenly remembered his mother. When his mother accidentally spilled soup, she was despised and criticized by relatives, and his father just sat there and watched indifferently. On New Year's Eve, Shi-fan's parents prepared a table full of delicious food. After eating, they greeted friends. As a result, Shi-fan received New Year's greetings from Yan-heng. She saw this and quickly deleted him as a friend. Zhao Zhe sent a message to Su-yi, and he also conveyed the boy's blessings to Shi-fan on his behalf. Unfortunately, Shi-fan was busy watching TV with her parents and didn't notice the messages on her phone. After 3 rounds of drinks, Hisheng urged Su-yi to get married first and then start his career. Because his research project was suspended, he brought up the old matter again, complaining that Su-yi didn't follow the cardiac surgery path he had laid out, but insisted on using traditional Chinese medicine. Su-yi was very dissatisfied with this, and sarcastically said that he was successful and had a new family, so why did he pretend to ask him to come home for the new year? Hisheng, hearing this, felt very awkward. Su-yi's grandfather and Su-yi video called, wishing each other a happy new year. Su-yi saw that his grandfather still remembered his birthday, yet Hisheng had forgotten this day. He suddenly felt a lump in his throat. Shi-fan finally saw Su-yi's message and composed a New Year's greeting, but then she thought it was too formal and just sent a cute emoji. Just then, Su-yi called Shi-fan. In her voice, you could hear a bit of loneliness. The two of them then chatted for a long time. Before hanging up, Su-yi and Shi-fan wished each other well, but reluctantly ended the call. Shi-fan suddenly remembered that today was Su-yi's birthday, so she made him a simple birthday cake, put candles on it, and sang the birthday song. Shi-fan told Su-yi to make a wish and blow at the screen. Then she blew out the candles for Su-yi and celebrated his birthday with him. Su-yi was very moved, saying that he would return on the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year. Shi-fan, hearing this, smiled. The two of them heard the sound of fireworks outside the window, welcoming the final countdown. The next morning, Su-yi prepared a bag of medical supplies and planned to ride his bike to provide free medical examinations for the elderly, without even having breakfast. Hisheng didn't interfere too much with his son's actions. Nurse Wang clearly felt that the atmosphere between the father and son was problematic. Su-yi went from house to house, taking pulses and performing acupuncture for the elderly. Their symptoms improved, and he received unanimous thanks and praise from everyone. Passing by a house, Su-yi saw red beans, so he bought a bag, brought them home, washed them, and dried them. After they were completely dry, He put them in a glass jar, intending to bring them to Shi Fan when he returned on the third day of the Lunar New Year. On the third day of the Lunar New Year, Su Yi packed his bags, preparing to return to Hangzhou. As soon as he went downstairs, he saw the boy Wang Chong. He could clearly feel the boy's restraint and helplessness. Wang Chong's understanding and well-behaved appearance touched Su Yi's heart. He proactively gave the boy a red envelope. At Nurse Wang's suggestion, He Sheng also proactively said goodbye to his son and watched him get in the car and leave. When he returned to Hangzhou, Su Yi immediately messaged Shi Fan, using the excuse that he wanted to buy her a birthday present, and told her to come downstairs. He also gave Shi Fan 2 jars of red beans and some prescriptions made from red beans. Because red beans have the effect of promoting blood circulation and eliminating ulcers, red bean medicine can also help regulate mood. Su Yi had also experienced the pain of breaking up, so he could sympathize with Shi Fan. His experience was that if you lose the ability to love others, you must first love yourself. He advised Shi Fan not to waste any more time. After that, Su Yi went to see his grandfather and told him that his father had found a girlfriend and the two seemed to have a good relationship. Although his grandfather felt sorry for his daughter, he also understood that it had been a long time and it was time to let go. It was also normal for someone his father's age to find a partner to live with. Su Yi understood his grandfather's meaning, deciding to come here every year to celebrate the new year with him and his mother. After all, He Sheng didn't need him. His grandfather smiled and agreed, suddenly mentioning that Xian suddenly wanted to study for a doctorate and change her research direction, asking Su Yi if he hadn't taught her well. Su Yi said it was her choice. He didn't want to interfere. Shi Fan received an acceptance letter from a Swiss university and was very happy to know that she could choose between February and October. After careful consideration, Shi Fan decided to enroll again in October, so that she could work at the hotel for a full 7 years, save more living expenses, and most importantly, have more time with Su Yi. Xiangya and Yi Shun both saw her true intentions. After returning home, Shi Fan told her parents about this and received their support. Originally, Shi Fan also wanted to tell Su Yi this news, but after thinking about it, she couldn't find an opportunity to say it, so she deleted the message she had prepared earlier. Just as she was about to send the next message, she suddenly saw the typing message on Su Yi's WeChat. She waited for a long time, but still didn't receive any message. Mrs. Liu suddenly fell ill. Fortunately, the cleaning staff discovered her in time. Although Mrs. Liu thought it was just her old illness, Shi Fan still insisted that she go to the hospital and also revealed that she knew traditional Chinese medicine. Mrs. Liu agreed to give it a try. Soon after, Shi Fan messaged Su Yi to ask for advice and also prepared to make an appointment for Mrs. Liu to register for a consultation at the traditional Chinese medicine hospital. Not long after, Shi Fan took Mrs. Liu to Su Yi's clinic. He inquired about Mrs. Liu's condition. Because the CT scan was blurry, he asked Xian to take Mrs. Liu for another CT scan. Shi Fan was alone with Su Yi, hesitating about whether or not to tell him about the change of date. Su Yi noticed something, proactively inquiring about her going abroad to study. When he learned that she would be going in October, he was a little angry that she had hidden the truth from him and even blamed her for being heartless to him. After the examination, Mrs. Liu inquired about the relationship between Shi Fan and Su Yi, discovering that there was definitely something going on between them. Mrs. Liu told Shi Fan that sometimes she thought she was very determined to do something and wouldn't be influenced by anyone, but she couldn't hide her true feelings. Shi Fan was encouraged by Mrs. Liu's words. The image of Su Yi appeared in her mind. Early in the morning, Su Yi messaged Shi Fan, asking if she had taken the red bean medicine. Shi Fan took a picture of the medicine her dad made and sent it to him. Zhao Zhe was quickly discharged from the hospital. Su Yi personally came to see him off. Zhao Zhe hoped Su Yi would say goodbye to Shi Fan on his behalf. He happily agreed. After resting and returning, everyone held the first meeting of the morning at the hotel. Shi Fan noticed that the atmosphere between Yi Shun and Xiangya was very unusual, completely different from their previous bickering. Xian decided to let go of her feelings for Su Yi, proactively explaining the situation to him. The next morning, Shi Fan took out a photo, chatting about Yi Shun and Xiangya. Finally, they had to admit their true feelings. It turned out that during this time, the two of them had realized many things. Xiangya was also preparing to resign, finding a new direction for her life after Shi Fan went abroad. At this time, Su Yi proactively messaged Shi Fan, inquiring about her homework on medicinal cuisine for treating illnesses today. Fan said her dad didn't cook today, so she couldn't submit her homework. But Suyi's next reply was that he was looking forward to seeing her. Her heart raced, but she couldn't reply immediately because she was busy with work. That evening, Fan received another message from Suyi. He had sent her a picture of himself being downstairs. When Fan went to find Suyi, she saw him sitting on a bench, having drunk a lot of beer. Moreover, Suyi took advantage of her being tipsy to blame Fan for being a bad person, luring him in and then want to let him go. This action was completely irresponsible. Fan, hearing this, felt helpless. She suddenly felt like she was the one abandoning her lover. Worried that Suyi would catch a cold, she had to personally take him home. But after Suyi closed the door, his face was completely sober, not drunk at all. Fan was also confused by Suyi's words. The next morning, Fan looked at the fish soup made by her father, remembered Suyi's words about fishing, smiled, and then took a picture and sent it to Suyi as homework. Suyi looked at the pictures over and over again, feeling very happy. While Suyi was still waiting for Fan to heal from the old wounds caused by Yin Hung, unexpectedly, he suddenly came to the hotel. Manager Chung Dong summoned everyone to the meeting room, telling them to ensure smooth service and win over this high-quality major client. Fan was extremely shocked but still had to return to work. As soon as Yin Hung arrived at the hotel, Xianya and Yishun knew he had come to find Fan. Not only that, Yin Hung also chose to stay at Gunan Huating, using the excuse of participating in the bidding for the local science and technology park. On the first day of his stay, he made a fuss about finding Fan. Xianya declared that she couldn't tell Yin Hung Fan's whereabouts. After that, Yin Hung bought a large bouquet of roses and stood in the lobby. Chung Dong saw this and quickly sent a message to Fan, urging her to come here. Fan reluctantly went to meet Yin Hung and had to accept the roses. The front desk staff noticed Yin Hung and Fan, thinking that he was Fan's ex-boyfriend. Initially, Yin Hung wanted to invite her to his room to sit for a while and talk about their relationship, but Fan was so angry that she threw the roses at him. After hearing Yin Hung's excuses, Fan refused without hesitation, even hating him touching her. In the guest room, Xianya and Yishun comforted Fan and advised her not to agree to get back together with Yin Hung. Very quickly, this matter became known to everyone in the hotel. The female staff in the hotel were still whispering, thinking that Fan was too dramatic, not knowing how to appreciate a wealthy son-in-law like Yin Hung. In the meeting, Chung Dong criticized Fan's behavior for affecting the hotel, deducting her bonus for this month, and then warned everyone to maintain a professional attitude. Fan had a nightmare, dreaming that Yin Hung gave her flowers. Waking up, she saw a message from Suyi asking why she hadn't submitted her homework. Fan said there was no homework today, she would submit it tomorrow. The next day, she saw a bouquet of flowers at the door with a card and immediately recognized it as being from Yin Hung. Fan directly threw the flowers away. On this side, Yin Hung's father called him, asking when he would be back. Yin Hung said that when the time was right, he would bring Fan back with him. But it seemed that he didn't like this, asking him if he had thought it through, and even warning him not to get out of his control. Fan bought bottled red bean water, poured it into a cup, and then submitted it to Suyi as homework. Suyi immediately realized that this was store-bought. If it were freshly made, there would be no way it wouldn't have any sediment. Fan had to admit it. When the group was discussing where to go eat, Yin Hung was already waiting for Fan at the door, wanting to invite her to dinner. Xianya tried to stop them, but Fan thought it wouldn't be good to talk here, so she agreed to go with him. Yin Hung took Fan to eat barbecue, because this was what he liked very much before, and said that after all, they had 7 years of feelings. How could it just disappear? Yin Hung said his company was on track, had many patents, and had won many awards. Moreover, he now had the power to make decisions. He didn't have to worry about what his father said anymore. Fan saw that Yin Hung was still the same, getting whatever he wanted, completely disregarding her feelings. Moreover, she and T liked eating barbecue since college. Fan took a taxi home with a very bad mood. Her sachet fell out in Yin Hung's car. She began to feel that something was wrong. Fan went to Suyi's place. He saw that she was in a state of unease and wanted to do acupuncture for her. Yin Hung followed her there. Suyi immediately said that Fan was undergoing acupuncture, telling him to sit and wait. When Fan came out, Yin Hung thought that Suyi must have been pursuing her for a long time. If Fan had agreed, they wouldn't be like this. Suyi ignored his words and sent him away. Yin Hung, hearing this, was also very upset. Suyi went outside to meet Shi Fan, saw that her hands were cold, put his coat on her, and hugged her to comfort her. Shi Fan's parents saw their daughter return home in a daze, asking her what was wrong, but Shi Fan said she was fine. The next day at the office, Shi Fan saw Yin Hung's assistant knocking on the door with flowers. He said that Yin Hung had gone to a meeting, so for the next few days, he was tasked with giving her flowers. Shi Fan told him to take them away. She wouldn't accept them. The assistant was very embarrassed and asked her to tell Yin Hung not to make things difficult for him. Shi Fan said she had no way to contact Yin Hung, telling him to pass on the message. Li Ji informed Su Yi that the research group application had been approved. Su Yi was very happy. Li Ji also wanted to participate because he had been researching for half a year, and of course, he couldn't give up. His colleagues were also very happy, seeing that Su Yi's long persistence finally had results. Su Yi's grandfather also knew about this and was very happy for him. The manager called Shi Fan in, telling her to handle her relationship with Yin Hung well. Their industry was inherently fragile, and employees were frequently fired due to conflicts with customers. If Shi Fan were fired like that, it would be very difficult to find a job at another hotel later. Shi Fan acknowledged this and left. At this time, an elderly lady came to find Su Yi for an examination. Mentioning Shi Fan's situation, she saw that she was in a very bad mood now. Su Yi said that Shi Fan was an intelligent person. He believed she could handle it well. She was just a little confused and would surely be fine soon. Yin Hung attended the award ceremony and told Shi Fan to wait for him. At this time, Yin Hung's father called, urging him to quickly return after finishing his work. Yin Hung still wanted to wait for Shi Fan. He warned him not to think that bringing Shi Fan back would mean he could oppose him. Yin Hung brought a lot of things to Shi Fan's house, wanting to propose. Su Yi just happened to be returning home. Hearing the security guard recount this, he ran to her house. On this side, Shi Fan's parents asked Yin Hung about the previous breakup. Shi Fan returned home just in time to hear Yin Hung say the breakup was her fault. Shi Fan was very angry and told him he was talking nonsense. Yin Hung said that recently, Shi Fan had been avoiding him, making him run around like an idiot searching for her. Shi Fan recounted that at that time, Yin Hung had only sent a message and then disappeared. She had been longing for him to reply. If he had just replied, she would have run back like a puppy, but now she no longer liked him. Su Yi cooked a pot of soup and used the excuse of bringing it over for her family, intentionally saying he had only made it for 4 people, not expecting there to be an extra person in the house. Yin Hung asked Shi Fan if she was rejecting him because of Su Yi. Yin Hung tried to pull Shi Fan away, but Su Yi immediately pulled her back. Shi Fan's dad also told Yin Hung to leave quickly. He wasn't welcome here. Shi Fan was also very heartbroken afterward, sitting in her room and crying. She remembered what Su Yi had done for her and felt unworthy. Just then, Su Yi came over to comfort her and kissed her forehead, which made her feel very moved. Shi Fan's mom felt very guilty after what had just happened. Seeing that her daughter didn't say these things, she didn't ask her about it and kept arranging blind dates for her. This year, during the Lunar New Year, she had noticed that something was wrong with Shi Fan. If she had asked Yishun and Xiangya, she wouldn't have let her endure such grievances. Shi Fan's dad then comforted her, thinking that their daughter was just thinking of them. On this side, Yin Hung drank a lot of alcohol and smashed things. Yishun had someone record the entire process, and tomorrow he would find him to settle the payment for the damages. Shi Fan's mom came to find her daughter, reminding her not to hide anything from them in the future. They would be her support. Shi Fan, hearing this, agreed. Shi Fan's dad also called the delivery service, sending back Yin Hung's belongings. Yishun and everyone came to Shi Fan's house for dinner. Yishun said that the manager had said that when Yin Hung's contract expired, he wouldn't be allowed to continue renting the room. Shi Fan said that Yin Hung was a big customer. How could the manager bear to do that? Yishun said the manager said that people like Yin Hung were too troublesome. They couldn't handle him. Yishun recounted that they had found Yin Hung to settle the payment for the damages. He had to pay a large sum of money. Yin Hung's father was very angry, seeing Yin Hung making trouble while drunk and losing too much face. Shi Fan's parents were very happy. Shi Fan recounted that Yishun and Xiangyu were together. Shi Fan's dad took the opportunity to open alcohol to celebrate, but her mom didn't agree. Yishun asked Shi Fan's dad why his aunt didn't let him drink alcohol. He then used the excuse that when he was drunk, he liked to speak English, so she couldn't understand him. Shifan went to the office. Yin Hung brought a sachet and a bottle of perfume, saying that this was a perfume he specially had someone make just for her. Shifan didn't like the smell of this perfume. At this time, she realized that she had liked Su Yi for a long time. She had just been constantly looking back, so she didn't realize it. Shifan went to find Su Yi, knocked on the door, but didn't see him answer, feeling very anxious. Just then, Su Yi opened the door to take out the trash. Shifan suggested going with him. On the way, Shifan confessed to Su Yi, asking if he would agree to be her boyfriend. Su Yi asked Shifan if she had thought it through. Before she could answer, he kissed her. Shifan and Su Yi returned home. In reality, he had seen her coming through the camera at the door, so he intentionally said he was going to take out the trash. Su Yi had made many sachets, intending to give them to her when he had the chance. Shifan felt very remorseful, feeling that she hadn't realized it sooner. Su Yi thought that now wasn't too late either. After the two of them confirmed their feelings for each other, they found everything around them beautiful. Every night they tossed and turned in bed, filled with joy. The next day at work, Shifan and Su Yi were both very energetic. Anyone with a keen eye could see that they were both in a great mood. The nurses even teased Su Yi, asking if he had some good news to share. Because Su Yi was in such a good mood, he completely overlooked the article that Li Ji had rewritten and even praised him a lot. Even when his colleague went to the cafeteria to eat, he wished him good luck. This action made his colleague very confused. Similarly, Shifan announced to her friends the good news that she was no longer single. Xiangya and Yishan were both genuinely happy for her from the bottom of their hearts. After work, Su Yi couldn't wait any longer and wanted to go to the mall to buy slippers and other daily necessities, and he even brought a bouquet of flowers that Shifan liked. The two of them met outside the gate of the residential area, beginning a simple, sweet, and romantic love. They held hands and walked back, making everyone around them envious. After returning home, Su Yi cooked himself, while Shifan helped arrange the flowers and set the table. During the meal, Grandpa saw the photo sent by Su Yi and criticized him for not having a big, fancy meal on his first date with Shifan. Su Yi, hearing this, asked Shifan to help him explain to Grandpa. Shifan told Grandpa that she really liked the food Su Yi cooked, that it was very delicious. At this time, Su Yi also revealed that Grandpa had met her a long time ago and had a very good impression of her. Su Yi also suggested that the two of them find a time to meet, which made Shifan both excited and nervous. Afterward, the two of them finished eating and sat on the sofa to watch a movie. Su Yi asked Shifan to teach him how to fold a paper frog, but he fumbled around for a while and just stared blankly at her folding. Shifan saw this and burst out laughing. Su Yi pretended to be angry so that Shifan would comfort him. Shifan suddenly realized that they were very happy every day together. But then she remembered that Su Yi had once said that he had made the worst-case plan. Su Yi said that he had thought about waiting for Shifan to return from studying abroad. Even though they were in a relationship, if she felt pain in this relationship, she should directly tell him, and he would try his best to fix it. If she really couldn't he wouldn't force her either. Shifan, hearing Su Yi say this, was deeply moved and happy that he had seen through to her sincere feelings. She felt lucky to have confessed her feelings early on. Then the two of them hugged each other tightly. It was getting late. Su Yi personally took Shifan home and told her his house password. Shifan returned to her bedroom, looked at the flowers Su Yi gave her, thought about what he said, and suddenly had a realization. Why hadn't she understood such a simple truth before? The next day, Shifan went to work at the hotel, as usual. During her break, she received a message from Su Yi, discovering that he had learned how to fold a paper frog, and he even sent her a picture. Su Yi claimed she had looked up instructions online and asserted that hard work could make up for a lack of talent. However, the next second, Li Ji sent her a message, revealing that Su Yi had actually threatened her into helping him fold the frog. Otherwise, he wouldn't help check the English translation of the report. Seeing this news, Shifan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yin Hung proactively sought out Shifan, asking her why she chose a poor traditional Chinese medicine doctor. Shifan said she was very happy with Su Yi. This was something Yin Hung could never achieve. She also sincerely hoped that he could find happiness. Yin Hung's South Science and Technology Park bid ended. He checked out of the hotel and left Shifan. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Similarly, Shifan completely ended this past. She couldn't help but call Su Yi and tell him that she missed him. Suyi also softly replied that he missed her too. After Li Ji and the others heard this, they were disgusted and immediately left, taking their paperwork with them. When Shifan got off work and returned home, she saw that Suyi had been waiting for her at the bus stop outside the residential area for a long time. The two of them hugged each other tightly as soon as they met. Suyi cooked for Shifan again, and she also mentioned that Yin Hung had checked out and thanked him for not letting go, finally escaping the shadow of the past. Afterward, Shifan told her parents that she and Yin Hung had completely broken up. Both of them supported their daughter's decision and wanted to find an opportunity to invite Suyi to their home for a meal. Shifan's mother told Shifan to go for a walk downstairs with her after dinner. Suyi received a message from Shifan asking for help and intentionally appeared in front of her parents to win them over. The couple was also very tactful, giving them their private space. The next day, during their break, Xiangya and Shifan suggested a double date. On the weekend, Shifan, Suyi, Xiangya, and Yishan went to the park to see the flowers. Xiangya asked Suyi to take photos for them, but his photos were so bad that he was cruelly rejected. Because of this, Xiangya called Yishan over to take photos for them. Sure enough, his photography skills were very popular. Conversely, Suyi didn't know how to take photos, so he became the coat rack of the group, helping to carry bags and belongings. Afterward, Suyi and Shifan admired the flowers and took photos together. Their feelings reached a peak, and they kissed. This scene was captured by Yishun and sent to both of them. Shifan returned home and showed the photos and videos to her parents, and both of them were very satisfied. She and Suyi both set the photo as their lock screen wallpaper. Li Ji and the others all lamented that Suyi had achieved a perfect outcome. Under Shifan's care and Suyi's treatment, Mrs. Liu's after effects gradually lessened, and she regained her confidence in life. She decided to live abroad with her children and spend her final days. Before leaving, Mrs. Liu gifted Suyi and Shifan a painting of peonies, leaving behind her most sincere blessings. When they got home, Suyi and Shifan hung the painting on the wall, but while Shifan was looking for tools in the utility room, she found the keychain she had given him. At first, Suyi pretended to have lost the metal ring, but Shifan directly exposed his bluff, forcing Suyi to admit that he had intentionally kept it and had feelings for her. Early in the morning, Shifan and Suyi held hands and went out. She suddenly remembered Suyi once posting a picture of licorice soaking in water, and she couldn't help but curiously inquire. Suyi made an excuse to avoid the question and then took Shifan to the traditional Chinese medicine hospital to pick up medicine. When Shifan heard what the receptionist said, she felt that Suyi had had other intentions toward her from the very beginning. However, Suyi denied it and claimed that she was the one who pursued him first. Shifan also hurriedly explained that this was impossible. At that time, she and Yin Hung hadn't broken up yet. There was absolutely no love at first sight. After dinner, the two of them returned home. Shifan told Suyi to wash his hands first, and then she secretly took out a small box. Inside was a ring she had bought herself. Shifan said that since she had caught Suyi, she should be responsible for him. The metal key ring from before basically didn't count. This time, she had to use a real ring. Originally, Suyi thought Shifan would put it on his ring finger to propose, but when he saw that she put it on his middle finger, he deliberately acted disappointed. Seeing this, Shifan kissed him to comfort him. In the blink of an eye, it was already Qingming Festival. Suyi wanted to go with his grandpa to visit his mother's grave. Yishin couldn't come back due to work, which made Suyi a little disappointed. Thinking about how his respected mother suffered from incontinence before she passed away, Suyi became incredibly down. Right then, Shifan knocked on Suyi's door, holding a big bouquet of tulips. Suyi's mood instantly brightened up because of Shifan's radiant smile. Later, Suyi and his grandpa went to the grave and revealed that he had a girlfriend and that there was new progress in his research project. Grandpa saw that Suyi was upset because of his father's actions. He comforted him, telling him not to think too much about it. After all, Hisheng had a lot of work to do. To thank Shifan for sending flowers, Grandpa asked Suyi to video call Shifan and invite her to bring her family to visit the herb garden. Shifan happily agreed to their request and went back home to tell her parents. Mother Shin couldn't wait and started picking out clothes. Shifan specifically reminded them not to mention Suyi's mother tomorrow, to avoid making the two generations sad. The next day, Shifan took her parents to the herb garden for a visit. The couple finally met Suyi's grandpa. They realized they had met him before in the village. He was the old man who liked to watch them play chess. The two families strolled through the garden and had a pleasant time chatting with each other. Shifan and Suyi also got along very well. The two treated each other very sweetly. When Suyi heard his grandpa mentioning his mother, he looked sad and lost. Finally, Shifan understood why Suyi liked tulips. Similarly, Shifan was the light for Suyi. Her appearance brightened his whole world. At the dinner table, everyone was toasting each other. Grandpa recounted the emotional experiences of the two young people and thought about the time he replaced Suyi patient. Shifan discovered that Suyi's alcohol tolerance was quite good. Remembering the last time Suyi pretended to be drunk downstairs in the neighborhood, she couldn't help but realize something. Suyi's act of proactively seducing Shifan was finally exposed. In addition, Grandpa revealed that he was the owner of this herb garden, and Suyi had also invested some money. Shifan suddenly understood. After Suyi returned home, he realized he had been completely exposed, so he tried to pretend to be drunk and pitiful to deceive Shifan. But Shifan pretended to take Suyi's pulse, using the pulse taken to respond to Suyi's unscrupulous words. Because of this, Shifan was half angry, half coercing, and wanted to take off Suyi's ring, then step by step made him admit that he actively pursued her. While working, Suyi proactively sent a message to Shifan, apologizing to her about the previous matter. Shifan pretended to be smug and forgave him. Yishun was in charge of a big event at the hotel, the Chinese Medicine Association Forum, but except for him and the manager, Xiangya and the others were all very bored. When they were talking about Suyi, Yishun was curious if he would come. After all, this event was very professional, and it would be fitting for Suyi to be a consultant. Suyi still waited for Shifan at the bus stop as usual, explaining to her why he hung up the phone and asked a colleague to record a video as proof for her. When Shifan mentioned the forum activity, Suyi said that his grandpa might go, but he wouldn't. The next day, the hospital director called Suyi, informing him that he had found an opportunity for him and told him to bring the project to the medical association and quickly prepare a report. Li Ji and the others got off work and planned to go out to eat, but he saw Kaexian giving an umbrella to a senior in the hospital, and he felt a little uncomfortable. Because Suyi was busy preparing the report, he couldn't continue dating Shifan. At this time, Shifan, Xiangya, and Yishan were having a great time chatting at the bar, sharing their thoughts about work. Although Shifan and Xiangya were both preparing to quit their jobs, Yishan hadn't decided yet, and for now, he could only continue working. On the other side, after Suyi finished the report, he looked at the clock, and it was already past 9 o'clock at night. He proactively sent a message to Shifan, but didn't receive any reply. He contacted Yishun and learned that Shifan had gone home a long time ago, which surprised him. He thought she would be drinking until late. When Suyi got home, he saw Shifan sitting on the sofa, drawing a portrait of him, and there was a tea leaf in front of her. Suyi was curious about the meaning of the leaf, but Shifan didn't say anything. The two of them joked around happily. The atmosphere was good, but Li Ji suddenly opened the door and walked in. Because Kaexian went to eat with other seniors, Li Ji thought she was on a date with someone else, so he got drunk and came looking for comfort. Seeing this, Shifan had to leave first. Suyi tried to suppress his anger to take care of Li Ji. The next morning, Suyi angrily told Li Ji that the door password had been changed and not to come to the house on his own again. However, after the criticism, Suyi still patiently advised Li Ji, telling him not to jump to conclusions. Instead of being suspicious, he needed to find more evidence to find out the truth. After a period of time, both Suyi and Shifan entered a busy phase. Suyi used the portrait Shifan drew as his profile picture, which made her very happy. On the weekend, Shifan proactively went to find Suyi. The two of them worked together, one writing a thesis, the other studying German, enjoying a sweet time together. Suyi wanted Shifan to stay overnight. She asked to see his performance, and at the same time was curious about what he had been busy with during this time. Suyi deliberately kept it a secret, waiting until he had results to tell her. At the hospital, Li Ji asked Kaexian about her leaving with the senior that day. Learning that they only shared a ride, he breathed a sigh of relief. However, Kaexian still had work to do, so she politely declined Li Ji's invitation. Hearing that she would be moving to another city next week, Li Ji became sad again. Suyi's research was selected for the summit. He immediately shared this good news with Shifan and made a dinner date with her, planning to make up for the missed dates and sweet moments during the busy period. Shifan was extremely happy. She linked arms with Suyi and strolled the streets. celebrating that his topic was selected. She felt she had found a very outstanding boyfriend. The day of the Chinese Medicine Summit quickly arrived. Grandpa took Su Yi to the hotel. On the way, he remembered that He Sheng, as a cardiologist, would also be attending this conference. He reminded Su Yi to take the opportunity to chat with him if he had time. The conflict between father and son needed to be resolved eventually. The hotel was meticulously preparing to ensure the conference ran smoothly. Grandpa and Su Yi had just arrived at the hotel when they saw Shi Fan. The two smiled at each other. Li Run was also very happy to see this. Li Run went to the event venue first. Su Yi didn't forget to compliment Shi Fan on her beauty, which made her very happy. While welcoming guests, she met He Sheng and personally led him to the registration desk. Soon after, Grandpa personally took the stage to give a speech. He Sheng texted Su Yi, asking if he was free this noon, but he already had plans to have lunch with Grandpa and a few traditional Chinese medicine experts. While He Sheng was having a meal alone at the hotel, he suddenly saw Shi Fan and Su Yi acting intimately. He vaguely guessed something in his heart. After meeting Su Yi, Shi Fan continued her work and unexpectedly discovered that He Sheng was Su Yi's father. While working, Shi Fan happened to see Su Yi standing and admiring the flowers. She happily went to meet him. Su Yi wanted to get off work and pick her up, but today Shi Fan had to work overtime, so he sadly made plans to see her tomorrow. But Shi Fan didn't want to wait until tomorrow to see him and scheduled to meet tonight instead. Su Yi was very happy to hear that. He was about to move in to kiss her, but since this was a workplace, Shi Fan told him to keep a distance of 10 meters. Shi Fan returned to the hotel and coincidentally met Su Yi's father. He was curious about what their relationship was. When he learned that she was his son's girlfriend, he was very happy. He felt that it was fate that the two of them, who were not in the same profession, could still get to know each other. Su Yi was also in the same oncology field as him, so he was very worried that he would be under pressure, so he asked her to take care of his son. Shi Fan readily agreed, and also praised Su Yi as a very intelligent person. He always knew what he wanted. That night, Shi Fan went to Su Yi's house as usual. During dinner, Shi Fan asked if there were other reasons for the conflict between his father and him, besides him studying traditional Chinese medicine. Su Yi had to recount the story from the past. The two met when they were studying at the same university, then got married and had him. But at that time, his father was still not responsible for this. On the day he passed the Master S exam in Bay City, he suggested that his mother leave Hang City with him. But when he arrived in Bay City, he only focused on research and study, so he didn't have time to take care of his mother. Therefore, his mother had to work and take care of him at the same time. Because of the pressure and hardship, she got cancer and passed away at the age of 40. Shi Fan was very sad after hearing this, but didn't know how to comfort him. To cheer him up, she changed the subject, saying that there was a photo shoot tomorrow, and she wanted to choose a nice outfit for him. The next day, Su Yi wore a beautiful suit and carried a gift box to the hotel. Su Yi's presentation on his treatment method also quickly began. At this time, He Sheng came and saw his son. He nodded to encourage him. Shi Fan, who was below, also recorded the moment of his presentation. She couldn't help but feel proud of him. Su Yi's presentation was also highly praised by everyone. He Sheng also began to recognize his son's talent. At this time, someone sent Su Yi a drawing. Knowing it was from Shi Fan, he ran to find her and didn't hesitate to hug her tightly. Shi Fan also praised him, saying he was very cool today. Then, Shi Fan recounted the story of meeting He Sheng and that he was very concerned about him. Therefore, she wanted the three of them to meet tonight. She also wanted to greet him. Su Yi was about to refuse, but just then, He Sheng walked by. He came over to praise his report as excellent and hoped it would help with treatment in the future. When he was about to leave, Shi Fan urged Su Yi to invite He Sheng to dinner, and he agreed. That night, everyone went to a restaurant together. Shi Fan recounted how Su Yi treated her illness by having her eat medicinal recipes. Grandpa also joined in, recounting the process of the two praising each other, making Shi Fan and Su Yi very embarrassed. At this time, the waiter brought the lotus root and water chestnut soup that Su Yi had ordered. Everyone's faces immediately fell. It turned out that this was Su Yi's mother's favorite dish when she first moved to Bay City. Afterward, He Sheng turned to ask Shi Fan and Su Yi when they planned to get married. Su Yi didn't want to put Shi Fan on the spot, so he said that she was going to study abroad soon, and he wanted to wait until she returned to discuss it. Grandpa also said that the younger generation nowadays had different views on life, loving with their feelings, but marriage was the responsibility of each person because it was a major event. Seeing Grandpa's support, Both were very happy. After the meal, Su Yi went to find He Sheng. He felt very embarrassed about urging Shi Fan to get married and asked him to speak on his behalf. He also felt that Shi Fan was a good person and advised him to hold on to her. He also no longer opposed his pursuit of traditional Chinese medicine and even promised to find ways to help him. Su Yi was very happy to hear that, and he also thanked his father for agreeing to let him follow this path. On the way back, Shi Fan wondered about the bowl of soup earlier. Su Yi explained that his mother always saved a portion for his father, but he didn't come home, so he wanted him to eat it to experience the old taste. Then, he took out a jade bracelet and gave it to her, saying it was something his mother left behind. Shi Fan was very touched when she heard this, and asked him why he was giving it to her at this time. Su Yi immediately affirmed that it was because he loved her, and then the two hugged each other tightly. Shi Fan returned home. Her parents saw her bracelet and complimented that it looked very nice on her. Seeing her parents being so affectionate, Shi Fan was very happy. The next day, Shi Fan saw He Sheng off. He also expressed that he was very relieved that his son loved someone like her, then apologized to her for urging marriage last night, and then left. Shi Fan's parents had a 2-day camping trip, so they told her to take care of herself. That night, Shi Fan met up with her friends. Everyone talked about their future plans after quitting their jobs. Su Yi and Yi Shun talked privately. He asked Su Yi what he thought about Shi Fan going to study abroad. He said that as long as it was what she wanted, he would fully support her. On the way back, Shi Fan felt very happy that she could both realize her dream and be accepted by Grandpa and He Sheng. After returning home, Shi Fan realized she had forgotten her keys. She called her mother to ask about the spare key, but the person who had the key had also gone camping with her, so Shi Fan called Xiangya. In the meantime, she went to Su Yi's house. Xiangya texted back and learned that she was at her boyfriend's house, so she made an excuse that she was sleepy. With no other choice, Shi Fan had to stay at Su Yi's house for one night. He also prepared to go and arrange things for her. At this time, Shi Fan was drying her hair, so Su Yi wanted to go help her. Seeing her seductive appearance, he couldn't help but kiss her. Shi Fan also didn't hesitate to respond to his kiss, and the two had a memorable night. The next morning, Su Yi woke up and immediately went to hug Shi Fan. Seeing that she said she hadn't slept enough, Su Yi reminded her of last night, making Shi Fan very embarrassed. While Shi Fan was brushing her teeth, Su Yi came over and suggested taking her for a walk, then took her to buy some daily necessities and pajamas. The two then went to the supermarket to buy groceries. Su Yi saw her hesitating and bought both items for her. Then he took her to buy pajamas. Seeing that she chose a modest set, Su Yi was very disappointed. While the two were shopping and heading home, Shi Fan's parents happened to return from their camping trip. The two invited Su Yi to dinner. Seeing that they had bought a lot of things, Su Yi explained that these were daily necessities for both of them, and that he would take them back to his house. This surprised both Shi Fan and her parents. Shi Fan had to explain that she had to stay at Su Yi's house last night. Shi Fan's parents were even more shocked to hear this. The two made an excuse to go home and cook, waiting for the two of them. After the two returned home, Shi Fan immediately blamed Su Yi for revealing the matter. When they got home, Shi Fan discovered that her parents had changed the lock to an electronic lock and set the password to be Shi Fan's. Father Shin asked Su Yi to try opening it, but it wasn't right. It turned out that Shi Fan's parents changed the electronic lock because they wanted their daughter to stay at Su Yi's house. The next day at work, Su Yi was very happy, making everyone very curious, while Shi Fan was very confused by the questioning of her two friends. That night, Shi Fan didn't know the password, so she had to stay at Su Yi's house. She helped him apply a moisturizer, but Su Yi thought it wasn't necessary, since he was still younger than Song Feng. Shi Fan advised him to compare himself to Li Ji, then moved in to kiss him. Su Yi immediately obediently let her apply the cream. The next day, Su Yi attended the graduate student defense. The students were stunned by his handsome appearance. The defense was very successful. Su Yi congratulated Ku Xin on graduating. Ku Xin also announced that she would soon be going to Ning City for research. Li Ji was very disappointed to hear that. Su Yi signaled for him to go after her. Li Ji hesitated for a moment and then decided to confess his feelings to Ku Xin. Although she refused, he didn't feel any regret. That afternoon, Father Shun went shopping and met Su Yi's grandpa. Father Shun invited him to his house. Then they showed Grandpa pictures of Shi Fan when she was little. Shi Fan was very surprised to see Grandpa when she got off work. She was even more surprised to see Su Yi cooking. She went over to tease him. When the two were having fun, Father Shin came in. She made an excuse to get water and left. Su-yi also went back to cooking. After dinner, Shi-fan and Su-yi washed the dishes together. Grandpa took Mother Shin's pulse and found that her health was problematic, but he didn't say anything and advised Mother Shan to get Checkup. The next day, Shi-fan submitted her resignation. After work, Su-yi came to pick her up as usual. Shi-fan also gradually brought her belongings from the company home. Su-yi took a pen from her because it was a hot item in the hospital. Therefore, he wanted to see who wanted to steal it. Today, Su-yi revealed to Shi-fan that he would soon be both working at the hospital and teaching. So he asked Shi-fan for a pen for good luck. It was also something to do while Shi-fan was abroad, so he wouldn't miss her too much. The next day, while having afternoon tea with her good sisters, Shi-fan received a message from a former client who wanted her to help find a villa, the kind that was discreet and a bit secretive, just like the male lead of a drama her friend Seong-ya watched before. When this actor arrived, her mind was just, fluttering. That night, she even rewatched the drama so that Shi-fan could absorb the actor's handsomeness. The men sitting nearby, hearing them compliment him, felt uncomfortable, saying that he was just average, even less than them. They let out a sigh and were immediately chased into the kitchen by the ladies to cook for being too noisy. After eating, Shi-fan saw Su-yi watching the drama and was curious why he was watching it. Su-yi accidentally complimented the female lead's beauty. Realizing his mistake, he didn't dare to say anything else. Seeing a scene in the drama where the male lead propped his hand next to the female lead, he intended to do the same with Shi-fan, but she suddenly turned around, making him embarrassed and quickly retract his hand and turn away. The next day was a day off, so Shi-fan took the opportunity to organize her paperwork and documents. She found a box on the cabinet with a bank card that her parents had prepared for her. She remembered that in the past, her mother was a little opposed to her studying abroad, worrying that she would have a hard time finding a job after returning. Who would have thought that she was still secretly taking care of this? Just as she put away, her mother came home from the checkup. She ran to ask about the results, but her mother said that it would take some time to get the exact report, but everything was fine. Her health was normal. However, her mother said this to reassure her, but the results were already in. She quickly hid it in the kitchen cabinet, not wanting Shi-fan to worry. Then she texted Su-yi and went to the hospital to give him the test results, asking him to look at them for her. In the morning, the doctor said she had a problem in her left breast. Seeing the doctor's serious expression made her a little worried. Su-yi advised her to do another test to be sure, and then asked a colleague to take her for the test. When Shi-fan texted, he was about to tell her, but he was afraid she would worry, so he didn't. After waiting a while, the results came back. It was indeed a tumor, which could be benign or malignant. He advised her to discuss it with her family first before deciding to do a minor surgery to confirm the tumor. Mrs. Liu thought for a while and then decided to follow Su-yi's advice, to have surgery and then test the tumor to determine its nature the day after tomorrow. Su-yi said she should still let her husband and Shi-fan know, since she would still need someone to take care of her after the surgery. Mrs. Liu didn't want to put more pressure on Shi-fan, wanted to wait until the surgery was over and the tumor was found to be benign or malignant before telling her. If it was benign, it would make Shi-fan worry needlessly, but if it was malignant, it would be breast cancer. She wanted Su-yi to promise to keep a secret. Because of this, he kept thinking about it. After Mrs. Liu returned, she told Mr. Shun. She didn't know how to tell her daughter about the hospitalization without making her suspicious. Mr. Shun tried to stay calm and comfort his wife, although he was also distraught inside. That night, the couple lied to Shi-fan, saying that her mother had a training schedule in the next city and that he had also adjusted his teaching schedule to go with her as a short vacation. Shi-fan didn't suspect anything. The next morning, the couple went to the hospital to complete the admission procedures. Su-yi introduced Dr. Zhou to them beforehand. He would be in charge of Mrs. Liu's surgery. Dr. Zhou asked about the situation and told Mrs. Liu not to worry too much, just relax and rest, and the surgery would be done tomorrow morning. Mrs. Liu asked Su-yi to stay with Shi-fan for the next few days. Very quickly, the surgery took place. Su-yi was by Uncle Shun's side at all times. As soon as Dr. Zhou finished, he came out to report that it was a malignant tumor, but fortunately, it hadn't metastasized. Now, they needed to continue the surgery to remove it, either breast-conserving surgery or a complete mastectomy. Both Uncle Shun and Su-yi chose conservation. This method would be beneficial for Mrs. Liu's health. The doctor comforted Uncle Shun not to be too nervous. Fortunately, it was discovered early, so the situation was still salvageable. After the surgery, Suyi told them to rest for a few more days and they could be discharged. In about 2 weeks, they would have the post-operative results, which would determine the next steps of treatment. Mrs. Liu was afraid of having to undergo chemotherapy and radiation, afraid of losing her hair and not being able to eat. Suyi told her not to think too much, as it would affect her psychologically. He was there and would provide the best treatment plan for her. After prescribing the medication, Suyi returned to take Shi-Fan out to eat. Her parents hadn't replied to her messages lately, so she was sulking, afraid they were having too much fun and had forgotten about her at home. Suyi felt a little guilty about hiding it from her, but Mrs. Liu's wishes were such that he couldn't do anything. It was only after a colleague said that keeping it a secret wasn't a good thing, since it was her mother after all. If Shi-Fan found out later, she would regret not being by her mother's side during the treatment, which would make her feel even worse. Suyi thought it made sense, but he was still unsure how to bring it up. As for Shi-Fan, she had packed up her belongings and said goodbye to her colleagues at the hotel and was taking care of the remaining visa application procedures. Having finished everything, she realized that this place was also close to the hospital, so she went to find Suyi. Meanwhile, he was with her parents, helping them with the discharge process. Mrs. Liu planned to tell Shi-Fan after the results came in. The only thing she didn't expect was that Shi-Fan saw them in the hospital lobby. After her parents left, she called Suyi to the back courtyard to meet her. She thought about it and realized that both her parents and Suyi's behavior had been very strange lately. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't stay calm. Meeting him, she immediately asked if her mother was sick. Suyi told her about her mother's condition. Shi-Fan blamed him for hiding such a big thing from her. She was so panicked when she heard him just now. Suyi quickly apologized. He tried to explain, but she didn't want to listen and directly left. Suyi returned to the clinic. He remembered that his mother was like that in the past, and remembering Mrs. Liu made him feel very uncomfortable. After work, he called Shi-Fan, but she wouldn't answer. He called Xianya and found out that the two of them were together. Xianya comforted Shi-Fan, telling her to trust Suyi. After all, he was a doctor, and if he said the situation was optimistic, it would be fine, so she shouldn't worry too much. Just as she finished speaking, he came to pick her up, so Xianya gave the two of them some space. Suyi explained that after the surgery, her mother wanted to wait for the results before telling her. As a doctor, he had a responsibility to keep his patient's secrets, so he hid it. He understood how she felt right now, because his mother also died of cancer. Back then, he would go to the hospital after school every day. Shi-Fan also apologized to him for being harsh earlier. It was because she was so anxious that she acted that way. The two hugged and made up, then went home together. After giving Shi-Fan some advice, Suyi also left. Seeing her return, Mrs. Liu immediately sat up, trying to act like she was fine, but the medicine bottle gave them away. Shi-Fan told her parents that she knew everything. Seeing the drainage bag next to her mother, she couldn't hold back her tears. The whole family tried to encourage each other and then gave Mrs. Liu her medicine. During the waiting period for the results, Mrs. Liu frequently visited Suyi's grandpa to get checkups and learn some exercises to strengthen her body. As for Shi-Fan, she kept thinking about studying abroad and her mother's illness all day long. That night, the two families had dinner together. Grandpa asked Shi-Fan about studying abroad. She replied that she was waiting for the results and the flight schedule would be in October. Soon, Mrs. Liu's results came in. Suyi was so worried that he rushed to Wu-Ping to get the report. Seeing that the result was type A breast cancer, he breathed a sigh of relief and went back to tell Mrs. Liu's family. The tumor was in the early stage with a good prognosis, so it was fine. He had also developed a treatment plan. There were two options: radiation therapy for 15 days or hormone therapy, which would take longer but wouldn't require hospitalization. After radiation, she could go home to rest, and the cure rate was very high. Mrs. Liu preferred to be at home, so she chose the latter. It could be long as she was healthy. The next morning, Shi-Fan took her mother for her first radiation treatment. She was a little tired, but she still tried to act like she was fine, so her daughter wouldn't worry. That afternoon, Shi-Fan was at home learning to cook for her mother when she received a letter from the embassy. Her visa had been sent. A little later, Suyi arrived. While cleaning the kitchen for her, he saw the envelope in the trash can, but since Shi-Fan didn't show it, he didn't dare to ask. Late at night, he tried to ask indirectly. Shi-Fan told him that she didn't want to study abroad anymore. With so many things happening, she felt she should spend more time with her mother. She was also trying to find a new job. Suyi advised her not to worry about her mother. He would take care of her. As for studying abroad, she had previously said she wanted to go out and see the wider world to know what she needed. This was also a good thing. Whatever her decision was, he would fully support her. Time passed quickly like falling leaves. It was already autumn. Mrs. Liu had also finished her last radiation treatment. That night, Mrs. Liu asked her daughter about the visa. Fan showed it to her mother. She knew that she didn't want to study abroad because she was worried about her, so she talked to her. Her surgery was successful, and the radiation was also finished. Now she just needed to take medication and continue treatment. Suyi was here, so she didn't need to worry. The cancer cells wouldn't disappear just because she stayed. The day Fan told her she wanted to study abroad, her eyes showed her determination. If she gave up now, she would feel very guilty. She didn't want to be a stumbling block. Fan hugged her mother. She asked her to promise to go abroad and live her life well. A few days later, Suyi went to teach his first class. Seeing him wearing a shirt and tie makes everyone fall head over heels for him. Fan helped him adjust his tie and then said goodbye. The class went very smoothly. A few students wanted to get his WeChat, but he politely refused, subtly implying that he had a girlfriend, conveniently showing off the ring on his hand. If there was an emergency, they could contact Li Ji, who would be his teaching assistant, and help with any problems. In the blink of an eye, Fan's flight day was approaching. Before the day she left for the airport, the whole family had a farewell dinner together. Afterwards, Suyi helped her pack her clothes. Fan told him not to come to see her off tomorrow. She was afraid that seeing him would make her not want to leave. She would also stay with her parents tonight. Suyi felt a little sad in his heart, but he didn't dare to disobey the words of his significant other. After packing, everyone went to their own homes. Fan saw a notebook that Suyi had put in her bag. Inside, he had clearly written down instructions about medication and treatment tips for her. After reading it, she quickly ran to his house to give him a hug. He was sitting there making sachets, and he was planning to use that as an excuse to go see her, but she came over first. Suyi told her to go study abroad with peace of mind. He would be waiting for her at home. The next morning, her parents took Fan to the airport. They gave her all sorts of advice before saying goodbye. While waiting to check in, she saw Suyi. He texted her saying he couldn't resist and came to see her from afar, telling her to go and not look at him. After checking in, the two lovebirds waved goodbye. Fan went inside. Suyi, with a sad and dejected face, went back to the hospital to continue his work, diligently examining patients. From time to time, when he missed his girlfriend too much, he would take out her picture to look at it. Because of the time difference, they only texted, rarely having time to call. Fan sent a video showing off a postcard she had just bought and would send to him. He immediately wrote a letter and sent it back to her. He wrote about Mrs. Liu's condition, which had improved a lot thanks to Grandpa's exercise regimen. The only bad news was that he missed her terribly. After that day, he wrote a letter every day, recounting how his day went, what he did, who he met, and so on. Time passed, a little over half a year. That day, Suyi and a group from the hospital went to a rural area to conduct health checkups for the local people. Taking advantage of the early evening, he FaceTimed Fan to show her the scenery around him. Today, he had discovered that the leaf in the avatar she drew was a green tea leaf. He had struggled so much to get a girlfriend, and she had been scolding him through pictures until now that he finally realized it. He would definitely settle this debt when she returned. He asked Fan about her vacation, whether she had bought a ticket back yet. They would go on a trip somewhere with her parents and Grandpa. Fan hesitated and told him that her internship around the world would end next week. But she had received a new opportunity, a 2-month internship at a 6-star hotel. There were only 5 spots, and because it was a rare opportunity, she had applied. Suyi was a little disappointed, but had to accept it. He had to wait another 2 months. This young man got sulky and told her to tell her parents herself. He wouldn't help. The 2 months finally passed with great difficulty. On the day Fan returned, he went to the airport early to wait for her. As soon as they met, they hugged to relieve their longing. Once in the car, Fan pinned him down and started a passionate makeout session. The two were so wrapped up in each other, not thinking about all the single people forced to watch their public display of affection. After the intense display of affection, the lovebirds returned home. Fan's parents were eagerly waiting downstairs. Dinner was already cooked, but Suyi had to go back to the hospital for work and didn't have time to eat lunch. It was a pity, but what could they do? Fan took the opportunity to act spoiled with her mother. Her mother's condition had improved a lot, thanks to Soo Ye's day and night care. Thinking that she should reward her top-tier 10 out of 10 boyfriend, she dressed up beautifully and went to the hospital to wait for him. Seeing how sweet they were, their colleagues pressed the escape button to give the lovebird some privacy. Fan didn't want to wait for him to get off work, so as soon as he had a break, she came to invite him to eat. She also invited Seongya and her partner because she had something to announce. She and Seongya would be co-owners of the shop they were sitting in. She wouldn't be returning to the hotel, but would focus on the business, using what she had learned. Soon, the first snow of the season arrived. Fan excitedly pulled Soo Ye out to watch. Last winter, they had a love from afar, so this year, watching the snow together made winter seem much more beautiful. The two watched and reminisced about their memories from when they first met. Fan boldly proposed to him. She wanted to wait until spring to hold the wedding. Soo Ye was overjoyed. He quickly went to pick a honeysuckle branch to respond to her proposal, entrusting his small body to her decision, using the flower as a ring to put on her finger first. Of course, after the proposal was a super intense makeout session, and so when spring arrived, the wedding was held. The lovebirds even treated their guests to the spicy hot pot that was a memory of their first meeting. Soo Ye's father helped him adjust his boutonniere before the ceremony. At the auspicious hour, Song Fong took on the role of MC. To add to the drama, he asked the groom to turn his back first. Soo Ye was eager to see the bride's face, but his older brother kept stalling, talking at length, giving all sorts of advice, and then handing him the microphone, wanting him to say something very touching, very heartfelt. He took the microphone and began to express the words in his heart, while the beautiful bride took each step towards him amidst the cheers of both families. When he turned around and saw the bride, he concluded with a sentence: "Loving you is the most wonderful thing I've ever done." In short, the wedding went very smoothly, top-notch, full of joy and laughter. Not only were the lovebirds happy, but Seongya and her partner also received the blessing to soon be under one roof. The film ends here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on even more exciting shows. And now, see you later and bye-bye.